My family threw a huge, extravagant party, but not only was I not invited, they expected me to set the table, light the candles, and clean up after their VIP guests, like a damn servant. So I made a choice they never saw coming. My name is Alexandra Lexi Sinclair, 29 years old, and I am an architect. I was drowning in the last-minute details of a design proposal when my phone buzzed, flashing a name I'd seen too many times, yet never with good news. Victoria Sinclair, my mother. I stared at the screen, a tight knot forming in my stomach. I could ignore it, let it ring, but I knew better. If I didn't answer, she'd keep calling, keep pushing, keep finding ways to make sure I fell in line. With a deep breath, I pressed the accept button. Lexi, darling, you'll be here early on Friday to help, right? My mother's voice was crisp, authoritative, like she'd already decided my answer before I even had the chance to speak. I frowned. Help with what? An exasperated sigh, like I'd asked the most ridiculous question in the world. Sebastian's party, of course. Have you forgotten already? Sebastian. My perfect older brother, the golden child, the man who, according to my parents, could do no wrong. He just got promoted to senior partner. It's a huge deal. We're hosting a big dinner. Clients, colleagues, high-profile guests. It needs to be flawless. The weight in my chest grew heavier. I already knew where this was going. Did you send me an invitation? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. A brief pause. Then, that familiar condescending laugh, the one that made me feel like a child asking to sit at the grown-ups' table. Lexi, this event isn't exactly your crowd, sweetheart. It's all lawyers and executives, successful people. You wouldn't fit in. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. Successful people, meaning not me. But, she continued, as if my worth was a mere footnote to the conversation, I need you there early to set the table, light the candles, make sure everything is perfect before the guests arrive. You've always had such an eye for detail, darling. Honestly, I don't know what I'd do without you. And just like that, my place in this family was made clear. Not as a guest, not as someone worthy of celebrating. I was staff, the unpaid help. I inhaled sharply, my throat burning with a mixture of humiliation and anger. I should be used to this by now, but somehow it still stung. So let me get this straight, I said, my voice calm but sharp. I'm not invited, but I'm still expected to work? Exactly, she replied cheerfully, as if she hadn't just stripped me of my dignity in one breath. You're always so good at these things, Lexi, and you know I'm terrible with decorating. There was a time when I would have swallowed the insult, when I would have forced a smile and shown up anyway, arranging the centerpieces, lighting the candles, making sure the silverware gleamed, then quietly disappearing once the party started, fading into the background like I always had. But this time, something inside me snapped. A quiet, simmering rage spread through me, slow but powerful. I deserved more than this. I clenched my jaw. Stay calm, Lexi. Stay in control. What time do you need me there? I asked, forcing my voice into something resembling neutrality. She didn't even notice the shift in my tone. 4 o'clock sharp. Oh, and bring extra napkins, I'm afraid we don't have enough. Of course, because why just be the help when I could also provide the supplies? All right, Mother, I'll take care of it. Knew I could count on you, sweetheart. And just like that, she hung up, not even waiting for a goodbye. I stared at my phone, my pulse hammering in my ears. For years I had played this role, the dutiful daughter, the problem solver, the one who kept things running smoothly while everyone else enjoyed themselves, but never the one who mattered. And the worst part? I had never told them no. That's when I saw it. A notification on my screen, a reservation reminder from Maison Rouge. I hadn't used that app in months. But there it was, glowing at me like a sign from the universe. Would you like to book a table for Friday night? I stared at the confirm reservation button, my thumb hovering over the screen. A night for myself. A night where I wasn't an afterthought, a background character in someone else's success story. I'd never tried saying no to my family, never chosen myself first. Maybe it was time. For a fleeting second, the old Lexi, the one who bent over backward to please them, whispered, "You can't do this. They'll be so angry." But then I thought of my mother's voice, dripping with condescension. "You wouldn't fit in." My brother, basking in praise while I cleared plates in the background. My hands polishing silverware for people who didn't even acknowledge my existence. A new fire burned in my chest. I pressed confirm. Table for one at 7:30 p.m. on Friday. I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my lips. For the first time in years, I wouldn't be where they expected me to be. Thursday. The messages started flooding in. "Mom, don't forget to come early tomorrow. I need your help setting the table. Oh, and bring extra napkins. I think white candles would look better on the dining table. What do you think? Sebastian, just making sure you're coming tomorrow. Mum's counting on you." They weren't asking, they were assuming, like always. I took a deep breath, opened my messages, and typed out a reply. Me, "Mom, I have plans tomorrow. I won't be able to come." I stared at the words, my finger hovering over the send button. For a fleeting moment, guilt crept in, the old reflex, the part of me that always caved. But then I remembered all the times I had stayed late after their parties, scrubbing dishes while they laughed in the other room, all the times I had questioned whether I truly belonged in this family. And then I hit send. A second later, my phone buzzed. "Mum." "You're joking." "Right, who's going to help me get everything ready?" "Mom, Lexi, you've always had the best eye for design. We need you." "Sebastian, really mature of you to leave everyone hanging like this. Good job, Lexi." I expected guilt to hit me. Expected to feel like I was letting them down. Instead, I felt relief. For the first time in my life, I wasn't fixing their problems. I was choosing me. My phone rang again. "Dad!" I hesitated, then declined the call, let them figure it out. This time, they were on their own. I woke up late on Friday, no alarm, no frantic messages telling me to pick up floral arrangements or polish the silverware. For once, I had nowhere to be, and it felt deliciously liberating. But of course, my phone had other plans. The screen was already lit up with unread messages. I didn't even have to look to know who they were from. "Mum, you're not seriously doing this, are you? You can't just leave me like this, Lexi." "Sebastian, this is beyond immature." "Mum's losing it." "Dad, Lexi, at least call your mother. She's really overwhelmed." A slow smirk crept onto my lips. Overwhelmed? Good. Welcome to my entire childhood, Victoria. I flipped my phone over, screen down, let them panic. The first signs of disaster started early. Victoria had been so certain I would fold at the last second that she hadn't bothered to hire professional help. After all, why waste money on caterers when she had a perfectly good daughter to exploit? But I wasn't there. So, when the head chef called to cancel last minute, realizing that a party of this scale required more than just one man, there was no backup plan. Victoria, in full meltdown mode, frantically called every catering service in the city. But it was Friday night, everything was booked. With no other choice, she did something that would haunt her forever. She ordered takeout. For a party filled with high-profile lawyers and CEOs. A haphazard mix of lukewarm pasta, stale bread, and uninspired salads arrived just minutes before the first guests. Nothing was plated correctly, nothing matched the aesthetic of the event, and worst of all, it was obvious. Sebastian, dressed in an expensive navy suit, was busy shaking hands and accepting congratulations. But even he started sensing something was off. The lighting was wrong, the energy in the room felt off, and then the chandelier flickered. A murmur rippled through the guests. The massive crystal chandelier hanging above the main dining hall was glitching, flashing like a bad horror movie effect. Every few seconds, the room plunged into semi-darkness before a harsh, flickering glow returned. "What the hell is wrong with the lights?" Sebastian hissed at our mother. I don't know," Victoria snapped, her hands trembling. "Lexi usually handles all this." Sebastian's jaw clenched. "Well, she's obviously not here, is she?" And that was just the beginning. A group of attorneys gathered near the bar, holding wine glasses filled with questionable-looking Cabernet. "I thought the Sinclairs were known for their impeccable taste," one of them muttered, examining his glass under the flickering light. "This is grocery store wine. And have you seen the food?" his colleague added, lowering his voice. "I swear I just saw a DoorDash bag in the kitchen," Victoria overheard them. Her face went pale. She turned to Sebastian, her voice a harsh whisper. "Fix this." "Fix what?" Sebastian spat. "You should have made sure Lexi was here." That's when Mitchell Reed arrived. Mitchell Reed was not just any guest. He was Sebastian's boss, a man whose opinion held actual weight in the firm. If Sebastian wanted to secure his future, impressing Reed was non-negotiable. But Mitchell wasn't interested in small talk. He wasn't interested in the mediocre catering or the chaotic ambience. He was looking for someone. "Where's Lexi?" A silence fell over the group. Sebastian forced a polite smile. "Oh, you know Lexi. She's always busy with her design work." Mitchell raised an eyebrow. "That's a shame. I was actually hoping to discuss a project with her. I've seen her work. Brilliant. I thought she'd be here tonight." Victoria physically flinched at those words. "Lexi?" she echoed, like the very concept of someone being interested in me was foreign and absurd. Mitchell gave her a knowing smile. "Yes, she has quite the reputation. In fact, I was going to extend an opportunity to collaborate on a new high-end project, but," he gestured around, "I suppose she's not here." And just like that, the realization began to sink in. Sebastian needed me, Victoria needed me, they all did, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't there to save them. As if the evening couldn't crumble any further, a journalist from Business and Law Today showed up. Victoria had invited them herself, fully expecting a flattering feature on Sebastian's grand success. Instead, the journalist took one look around and smelled blood. The article went live before the party even ended. Title: The Sinclair Disaster, When Perfection Crumbles Without Its Foundation. Excerpt. Tonight was meant to be a celebration of Sebastian Sinclair's prestigious promotion. Instead, it served as an unintentional exposé of the real power behind the Sinclair name, the absent Lexi Sinclair. Without her, the night descended into chaos. It makes one wonder, was she the overlooked backbone of this family all along? When Sebastian read the article, his face turned red with fury. "Are you fucking kidding me?" he seethed, shoving his phone toward our mother. Victoria read the headline, her hands shaking violently. For the first time in her life, she had no words. While my family was drowning in humiliation, I was sipping red wine in a dimly lit, candle-filled restaurant. Maison Rouge was quiet, elegant, and untouched by the disaster unraveling back home. I cut into my perfectly cooked filet mignon, letting the flavors melt on my tongue. Then my phone buzzed. "Mum, Lexi, you have no idea what you've done." "Sebastian, I hope you're happy. You ruined everything." "Dad, it's a mess, Lexi, but maybe I understand now." I read the messages slowly, deliberately. Then I flipped my phone over. Unread, unanswered. Lifting my glass, I watched the candlelight flicker against the deep ruby wine. I took a sip. For the first time in my life, I was truly free. Silent space, not the strained, suffocating kind that used to settle over the Sinclair estate when my mother's expectations weren't met, not the tense quiet of a party gone wrong where hushed whispers carried the weight of judgment. No, this was a different kind of silence. This was peace. The kind that came with knowing I had finally broken free. I leaned back in my chair, stretching my fingers around the smooth stem of my wine glass, feeling the weight of the crystal. The dim, golden glow of the restaurant cast soft shadows over the linen tablecloth, flickering against the polished silverware. Across the room, a couple leaned in close, laughing softly over their dessert. A jazz quartet played something slow, mellow, a song I didn't recognize but immediately liked. For the first time in years, I was in a space where no one needed anything from me. No one was calling my name, no one was handing me a task list, no one was looking at me expecting me to clean up their mess. I was just me. And that was enough. I finally picked up my phone, not because I cared, Not because I was about to run back to them and fix everything, but because I wanted to see it. I wanted to see how badly they were falling apart. Mum, Lexi, call me, right now. Sebastian, I swear to God, you're enjoying this. Dad, I think it's time we talked. That last one, that's the one that made me pause, because Henry Sinclair never talked. He never intervened, never spoke up when my mother dismissed me, never defended me when Sebastian absorbed the family's attention like a black hole. And now, suddenly, he had something to say. I let the phone buzz one more time before I flipped it over, face down on the table. Unread, unanswered, let them feel my absence the way I had felt theirs all these years. Let my mother sit in the wreckage of her ruined party, knowing that no amount of perfection could fix what she had lost. Let my brother seethe, drowning in his own entitlement, realizing for the first time that his effortless success wasn't so effortless after all. Let my father sit with the truth, maybe for the first time in his life. I wasn't coming to save them, not tonight. Maybe not ever. The waiter returned, refilling my wine glass with a polite nod. Everything to your liking? He asked, his voice warm. I met his gaze, and for once my answer came without hesitation. Yes, I said, smiling. It's perfect. Because for the first time in my life, I had chosen myself, and that, more than anything else, was worth celebrating. When they texted me at the same time, I knew this moment was coming. Victoria Sinclair had never been the kind of woman to accept defeat gracefully, so when I stepped into the cafe neutral ground, per her request, I wasn't surprised to find her already seated, back straight, chin lifted, hands folded over an untouched cup of black coffee. She looked exactly as she always did, composed, controlled, immaculately put together. But her eyes burned with something else, something sharp, something desperate. Good. Let her sit in it. I didn't rush. Didn't stumble into the meeting with an apology waiting on my tongue the way I once might have. Instead, I took my time, rolling up the sleeves of my linen blouse, ordering a latte, settling into the seat across from her as if I had all the time in the world. She hated that. I could tell by the way her fingers twitched against the porcelain cup, the way her lips pursed like she was biting down on every instinct to take control of the conversation. But she didn't get to control me anymore. Not now. Not ever again. You have a lot of nerve showing up like this. Her voice was sharp, clipped, a blade disguised as a greeting. I arched an eyebrow, blowing on my latte before taking a slow sip. You asked me to come, Mother. If you wanted to have a one-woman performance, you could have done that from the comfort of your estate. Her nostrils flared, a direct hit. Do you think this is funny? She hissed. Do you think humiliating your own family was some kind of victory? I held her gaze, unblinking, unmoved. You humiliated yourself, Mother. Her breath hitched, just slightly. That one struck a nerve. You orchestrated a party that you expected me to run behind the scenes like I always have, and when I didn't show up to clean up your mess, the whole thing fell apart. That's not on me. Her fingers curled around her coffee cup, white-knuckled. You wanted me to fail. I exhaled a soft laugh, shaking my head. She still didn't get it. No, Mother. I wanted you to see that you've already failed. You just didn't notice until I wasn't there to hold it all together. You have no idea what you've done. Her voice wavered just slightly. Sebastian's reputation, our family name. I don't care about the Sinclair name. That stopped her. For the first time since I sat down, her composure cracked. You don't know, I said, firm, unwavering. I don't. Because that name never did a damn thing for me except chain me to a family that never saw me as anything but a useful accessory. Her lips parted like she was going to protest, but for once she didn't have the words. Because she knew. All those years of standing in the background, of setting the table but never having a seat at it, of polishing their perfect image while they treated me like I was invisible. She knew she had no argument against that. So instead, she did what she always did when she felt cornered. She shifted the blame. You could have handled this differently, Lexi. I let out a soft, incredulous laugh. Handled what differently? Defending myself? Refusing to be your unpaid event planner, deciding that my life belongs to me instead of being at your disposal? You didn't have to make it public. Ah. There it was. Not regret, not remorse, just embarrassment. I leaned forward slightly, lowering my voice just enough to be dangerous. I didn't make it public, Mother. You did, the second you decided my only value was behind the scenes. You did when you let an entire room full of people see what happens when I'm not there to save you. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard, her breath uneven. She didn't deny it. She couldn't, because for the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. A chair scraped against the floor. I turned, expecting a waiter, maybe another patron. Instead, it was my father. Henry Sinclair stood just a few feet away, his hands tucked into the pockets of his coat, his expression unreadable. I hadn't spoken to him since the party, since the messages he'd sent that night. It's a mess, Lexi. But maybe I understand now. He hadn't followed up, hadn't called, hadn't pushed, and yet here he was. Victoria stiffened at his presence, but she didn't stop him as he pulled out a chair and sat beside her. His gaze flickered between us, before finally landing on me. Lexi's right. Victoria inhaled sharply, her head snapping toward him. What? Henry exhaled, leaning forward, resting his forearms on the table. His expression wasn't defensive. It wasn't angry, it was tired. We used you, he admitted, his voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. All these years, we used you. And we convinced ourselves it was fine because you never fought back. I didn't move, didn't breathe, because those words, those impossible words, felt both too late and long overdue. Victoria turned fully toward him now, her voice low, dangerous. Henry, stop, he ignored her. You have every right to walk away from this family, he said, looking directly at me now. And I wouldn't blame you if you did. Victoria's mouth parted in absolute horror. She's our daughter. And we treated her like an employee, Henry interrupted. His gaze was steady, clearer than I'd ever seen it. Victoria flinched, just barely. For the first time in my life, it wasn't me she was trying to control. It was slipping from her grip and she knew it. The silence stretched between us, heavy, unspoken, unfixable. Are you done? I asked, breaking it first. Victoria didn't answer, but Henry nodded, slow, final. I pushed back my chair, rising to my feet, no hesitation. I don't need an apology, I said, to both of them, and I don't need this family. Victoria inhaled sharply, like she wanted to argue, but Henry, he just closed his eyes for a brief second before nodding once more, because he knew it was too late, they had already lost me. I didn't storm out, didn't throw one last insult over my shoulder. I just walked away, head high, shoulders back. And for the first time in my life, I left them behind. After that day, I did not contact them until a text was sent on Friday night. It wasn't demanding, it wasn't manipulative, it wasn't laced with guilt or carefully crafted to twist a knife between my ribs. It was just a simple message. Mum, Sunday, family gathering. If you want to come, you're welcome. No pressure. I stared at the words, rereading them, waiting for the usual second text that would reveal the real intent. But there was nothing, just silence. For the first time in my life, Victoria Sinclair was asking instead of ordering. I could ignore it, I could delete the message, block the number, and let them fade into a past that had already collapsed under the weight of its own expectations. I had no obligation to respond, no lingering debt to pay, no guilt clawing at my chest, whispering that I owed them a damn thing. I had already walked away. And yet, something inside me, not obligation, not guilt, but something else entirely, made me pause. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was power, or maybe it was the knowledge that this time I would be stepping into that house as someone entirely different. Not the background character, not the family fixer, not the quiet girl desperate to be noticed. This time I would walk through those doors as the one they couldn't ignore. The Sinclair estate looked exactly the same. The manicured hedges, The towering white columns, the massive oak doors that had once felt like the threshold to a kingdom I could never quite enter. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I wasn't waiting for permission. I wasn't holding my breath, hoping someone would acknowledge me. I was here because I chose to be. I stepped inside, and the first thing I noticed was the quiet. No one barking orders, no one calling my name to handle a crisis, no one pretending I wasn't there. It was unsettling in a way that I hadn't expected, because for the first time, they were waiting for me. Victoria was in the living room, standing near the grand piano, her hands clasped in front of her. She had always been a force of nature, a woman who demanded rather than asked, who shaped the world around her to fit her vision. But tonight she looked at me differently. Not like a servant, not like an obligation. Not like someone who was supposed to blend into the background. But as a presence, Lexi. Her voice was careful, measured, not sharp, not dismissive, just careful. I tilted my head slightly, waiting, letting her be the one to close the distance. Thank you for coming. Not, it's about time. Not, I assumed you'd be here. Not, I need you to help with something. Just, thank you. I didn't respond right away. I wanted her to feel the weight of it. You sent me an invitation, I said finally. That's new. Her fingers twitched slightly, the smallest tell. Yes, she admitted. It is. And that was it. No apology, no drawn-out speech about how she'd been wrong. That wasn't who Victoria Sinclair was. But the fact that she acknowledged it at all, that was a shift. That was power moving hands. Sebastian was already seated in the dining room, a whiskey glass balanced in his hand. He didn't stand when I walked in. Didn't greet me like a long-lost sibling. He just watched. His expression unreadable, his grip tight around the glass. So, he said after a long moment, you're back. I slid into the chair across from him, my posture calm, unrushed. I never left. You just finally noticed I was missing. His jaw twitched. Sebastian had spent his entire life being the center of attention. He had never needed to chase validation. It had always come effortlessly, wrapped in admiration and expectation. And yet, for the first time, he had experienced a world where I wasn't orbiting around him. And he didn't like it. I didn't need you at that party, he muttered, more to himself than to me. No, I agreed easily, watching the way his shoulders stiffened at my agreement. You just needed everything to run smoothly. And unfortunately, I was the one making that happen. His knuckles went white against the whiskey glass. He hated that I was right. Henry Sinclair wasn't a man who spoke when silence would suffice. For most of my life, he had been a shadow standing next to my mother, nodding at the right times, blending into the family hierarchy without disrupting the balance. But tonight, as he set down his fork and met my gaze across the table, there was something different in his expression. You did what I should have done a long time ago, he said simply. It was the closest thing to an apology I had ever received. But it was enough. Dinner was different, not in any obvious way. There were still white linen napkins and crystal glasses, still the soft glow of chandelier light reflecting against polished mahogany. But the energy had shifted. There was no expectation for me to serve, no silent glances waiting for me to fill in the gaps. No invisible weight pressing down on my shoulders. For the first time, I wasn't the glue holding them together, and they knew it. As the night came to an end, my mother stood beside me at the front door, her hands smoothing over the sleeves of her blazer. I know things can't go back to the way they were, she said finally. I studied her, waiting. But maybe, she continued, voice quiet, hesitant. They don't have to stay the way they are now, either. I let the words settle between us. Not an apology, not a plea, but an acknowledgement. Maybe that was enough, for now. I stepped onto the porch, the cool night air wrapping around me. I could feel her watching, waiting for some kind of confirmation. I turned slightly, meeting her gaze. We'll see, I said, because for the first time the choice was mine. And as I walked away, down the long driveway, past the towering iron gates that had once felt like a prison, I knew I had If you were in this situation, what would you choose? Continue to endure or stand up and fight back like Lexi?